It's good to see folks here. I want to extend a welcome to our Island Park board members and administration for joining us this evening. And present are Jack Bogus, President, Island Park Board of Education, Kathleen McDonough, Vice President, Board of Education, Diana Caracciolo, sorry, because I have a name like that too, so Trustee, Island Park Board of Ed, Mr. Ray Miley, Trustee, Island Park Board of Ed, Mr. Vincent Randazzo, Superintendent of Schools at Island Park, and Dr. Allison Offerman Celentano, Assistant Superintendent at Island Park. So thank you for being here with us tonight. And just wanted to start off by giving a very big congratulations to the varsity hockey team on becoming Nassau County champions. And to the boys volleyball team for advancing to the Nassau County finals. So another big deal. Yeah, it really is very wonderful to see our students back in sports, and having these big victories is icing on that cake. So great news. All right, I will now make a motion to call the meeting to order. Thank you. Second? Second. Great. And now I will turn it over to Dr. Gallagher for report of superintendent.
Thank you, Ms. Postuli. Over the past year and a half or so, we have been doing a lot of work in our district about setting a common vision for our graduates, what we want our graduates to be able to do and be when they leave Long Beach High School. In particular, preparing them for the world work that awaits them, which is very different from the world that we grew up understanding. And the work of the curriculum committee this year has centered around identifying the profile of a graduate, the qualities that we want our graduates to have. It's been very intense, wonderful work, and I think the committees in the curriculum committee the subcommittees have done really important work in helping us to set a North Star in this area. And tonight, Dr. Romanelli will give us a presentation on that work and the culminating document that resulted from it.
All right, I'll use this microphone if that's okay. Great, so thank you, Dr. Gallagher. Definitely very excited to be here tonight to share this work, and happy to have our friends from Island Park here as well for the presentation. If I could just go into the first slide. I know Dr. Callie Brendan's going to help out with Nancy over there. Just a little background on our work here, what we've been doing over the past 2 years in building these ideas up within our schools and our community. We started off the year last year reading a book called What School Could Be by Ted Dintersmith. Dintersmith is a venture capitalist that went to schools across all 50 states in the country and looked at the amazing teaching that was taking place across the country. And that's really what he highlighted, the innovation that was going on in our schools across the country, and really a lot of those success stories. And you know, he starts the book with one of my favorite quotes in education, which is, if we teach today's students as we taught yesterday's, we rob them of tomorrow, which is by John Dewey, for those familiar with the quote. And really, that's, in essence, that is what the book is about. And it's about really the ideas of that we don't need to focus as schools on doing obsolete things better. We need to focus on doing better things. We have proven methods that are working to continue those and look to bring in new innovative practices. So of that book study, which we did during faculty meetings, administrative council meetings, had 80 plus teachers and a Voxer group talking about this book throughout the year. We had a big conversation in this auditorium about the work. It led to a Long Beach Teacher Innovation Corps, where we had a number of teachers try out different innovative teaching practices within their classrooms. You know, some of those ideas included Desmos in the math classroom, communicating with home and school using Flipgrid, integrating green screens in the classroom, QR codes for learning. And as you can imagine, many of those were items that we used when we faced the pandemic beginning last March, or things that we continued in our instruction throughout last year and into this year. So a lot of those, in essence, a lot of those were kind of on the cutting edge with. We had a screening of the film Most Likely to Succeed, which we had over 100 people attend, which we're really, really happy about the turnout. We had a panel. The movie is about a school called High Tech High. You've heard of it in San Diego, California is what they focus on. It really talks about a student-centered learning environment, and great practices that you can have in a school to foster that student-centered learning. We had a panel afterwards. We had representatives from Island Park, students, administrators, teachers, all answering questions about what it was like to be a learner and what we need to be successful moving forward. And one of the big things that we took away, our curriculum committee decided to focus on this work at the beginning of last year, and we really framed it around the idea of thinking about future jobs and skills, and the fact that we don't necessarily know what the jobs are going to be in 15 years, just like 15 years ago we didn't know the jobs that exist now. So how do we plan an educational system that prepares our students for the future if we don't necessarily know that? That was the big question that we kind of set out to answer. So what we did, first step was, of course, when you're looking to answer a question, do some research, ask some questions. We began to read many articles, look at different areas, the book study, the film screening. And something interesting we came across when talking about Google was actually they had set out an algorithm that searched for top grades out of the most elite science universities. They looked for the top computer science grades, and they hired these leaders in the STEM field, these students that were really successful in their subject area. And what they found out when looking in the HR department for all the hiring and firing and promotions and things like that the most successful teams and individuals, when they looked at the top 8 qualities, really expertise in STEM was actually at the bottom of the 8 qualities that they identified. And the 7 soft skills that they had before that, things like being a problem solver, critical thinking, and communication skills, were ones that actually were present by their top employees and top teams, and they identified those as actually being the most important skills for being successful within the company. So we kept going a little bit further, right? And we looked a little bit at, I don't have to give a spoiler alert here, there was a showdown between IBM's Watson supercomputer and the top performing Jeopardy contestants. You can see Ken Jennings on the left there, he was doing some posting recently of the show. But the spoiler alert is that Watson, you can see with the score beat them, right? So what we can take away from this is that, simple information recall is really done. And how we ask our questions in class, that's kind of an important focus that we need to make, where we're not just simply recalling information, because machine intelligence has surpassed us when it comes to pulling up information or quick facts or things like that. So we start thinking about the types of questions that we need to ask our students. And then couple that with the fact that we have these really powerful computers in our pockets, and our students have these really powerful computers in their pockets. And that's not going to, the technology will change, but that access to information is not going to change for our students. So we set out on a continued journey here. We actually, through our work, identified 20 items, these skills, knowledge, habits, attitudes that we felt our students needed to be successful, in their lives outside of school and moving forward, whether they decided to head to college or pursue a career, whatever the life path might have been. We really identified these 20 items, and we created a survey that we actually launched as the Most Likely to Succeed film screening. We gave parents a QR code to fill out, to take the survey. We gave our students the survey, our staff the survey. We had over 900 responses, which was a great turnout. And we narrowed it down to 10 items. So cut them really in half. So as a community of learners, our parents, community members, staff members, students, we saw these as being the 10 highest rated important items for us as a community that we want our graduates to possess in order for them to be successful moving forward in their lives. And you can see through this list, in Long Beach, we felt that hardworking was one of the most important things we could possess, and it ranges all the way through, the list that you see here. Critical thinking and data skills, strong self-management, communication, problem solving, being open-minded, being comfortable using technology, perseverance and resilience, independence, and conflict resolution skills. So once we had the list, naturally, we wanted to set out to kind of define, all right, well, we have those items, what do those things mean? So a lot of that work happened within our curriculum committee this year. You can see that, just by hard working, we want our students to be focused on growth and embracing opportunities to improve. That failure is kind of one step. You have a failed learning experience, that you're going to pursue that and look to meet with success and keep working ahead with that. The next one was critical thinking and data sense, and that our students can justify their reasoning and they can do so respectfully. They can prove a point, but do so in such a way that you're having a productive conversation back and forth. And also, really important item is that our students are discerning with the information that they're receiving and that they're able to see what is valid and what is not. I'm sure many people are thinking about, what you see on social media, the conversations back and forth, and the data that sometimes used to back up arguments, which may or may not be a valid source of information. Next up was conflict resolution skills. We want our students to be solution-oriented and that high level of emotional intelligence to be present, where they can work with others with different perspectives to develop a shared vision. After that was self-management. We really, identified that as students being able to monitor themselves or know how to access appropriate supports when needed, right? To know when you can ask for help, or to know when you can really focus and be kind of in that zone where you're learning at the right pace. Independence came next. Really, this was that students advocate themselves and are able to navigate their environment on their own. That was followed by perseverance and resilience, which was especially something that we saw a lot with some of our most successful learners, and even if you think of adults in your life, the perseverance and resilience piece in the face of adversity, like a year like this year, that you're able to be flexible, you're constantly changing and adapting to your surroundings, and that you're maintaining that growth mindset and staying optimistic as well, and you know that you can do success. Effective communication, there are many facets of communication. We listed them all out: reading, writing, speaking, and listening effectively, all those different areas, and looking to understand different views, having that discourse with others that may have a different opinion from your own. Next piece was the creative problem. We actually added in challenge solver, because we want our students to embrace challenges, to really look at them as an opportunity to persevere, and an opportunity to really go beyond conventional thinking and find different ways to solutions. Open-minded, we said that we really wanted our students to seek to understand and respect other people and different perspectives, especially when they're different from their own. And then finally, our 10th item was being comfortable using technology. Being able to use a variety of different devices, platforms, and really understanding, this kind of goes along with that growth mindset piece, that this is an ever-changing landscape. And that we don't use technology for the sake of using technology. We use it when it's effective, and we really think about what the best possible way is for us to share information or to obtain information as well. And that we're never necessarily mastering this, that it's a lifelong process that we're going to keep perfecting as we go. So once we made those definitions, I know you can't read this chart, however, there are some guides available, and this is going to be posted on our website. We went and got even further with this, and we narrowed it down to say, okay, if you're an effective communicator, we know what we define that as. What does that look like in pre-K through 2, 3 through 5, 6 through 8, 9 through 12? And we broke it down, at the different grade level bands to show what it should look like in our classrooms and what we're expecting to look like across the district. And then I'm so happy to say, by the way, I had the pleasure of being a middle school principal in the district for 4 years and working with one of our wonderful students, Jasmine Soriano. I'm so happy to call her. She's here tonight with her mom, and I was able to call her and her family yesterday. We selected her design. She created this original artwork here with those 10 elements of a profile of a graduate for Long Beach students. She is a high school senior this year, and we're so proud of the work that she has done. As a student, I think it's just such a great way to leave your mark behind on the district. And we're going to be using this visual and having these conversations for many years to come. We're just really proud of you, Jasmine, and thank you for contributing this. So, all right, so we have our visual, we have our definitions, kind of the next steps to think about, and this is really the final piece of information here. We want to spread the word about this work and about what we've been doing. Many people know about it. We've talked about it a lot, but we want to really put kind of a campaign out there to spread this across the district, all of our different buildings and within our community. we want to use this as a North Star for teaching and learning. In other words, when we're having conversations about teaching and learning and we're looking at this profile, do our lessons include these different elements? And what elements are we focusing on? Because if they don't, then we're saying that we're looking at these things to prepare our students for the future. Kind of why are we, why are we necessarily including that in the lesson when we could be focusing on those things? Also looking if there's an area that we want to develop further, are there certain programs that will help our students to meet those goals? If there's something, outside of the classroom or something to bring into the classroom that we can use. And then finally, using this to speak with our graduates, our alumni association, about, were these, these skills, this knowledge, habits, attitudes, were these things that you felt we prepared you for as a district and being successful in life, or are there certain areas that we can focus on, as we move forward? So that concludes the presentation, and we'll take any questions or comments.
Am I on? Dr. Romanelli, thank you for your presentation. I was on this committee for the last 2 years, so I don't have any questions about it. I do want to just say that the first year was a subcommittee, and I guess now it was a committee. And I just want to say it was a whole lot of really dedicated people, a lot of different stakeholders, everybody giving their all. It's a ton of work that went into what you were talking about tonight, and I'm just proud to have been on that committee. So thank you.
Happy to have you there.
Right? Sure, go ahead. No, I was going to just say, go ahead.
Hey, Dr. Romanelli. First, I have to say, I remember when this work began. I went into another subcommittee, but I am so amazed at all the work that you did on this comprehensive profile. I think it's a wonderful piece of work, and I think you're right. I think it is going to be a North Star guiding district. I just have a couple of questions.
I just have a couple of questions. Sorry about that.
Sure.
I wasn't paying attention to the green light. I was paying attention to talking to you.
They're new microphones, so I understand.
Yes. First of all, one of my questions really is, how are we going to ensure that a vision like this is going to be presented equitably across our district? We have students from varying homes. How are we going to make sure that this is really open to all of them? And I know that's a big question, so I just kind of really want to know the first steps that you're looking into in this matter.
Absolutely. So that's part of that campaign that we were talking about. Really, I think that's whenever you're trying to get a message out, that's probably one of the most important pieces to focus on, is that we have to have an equitable distribution of information. So I know that as Ms. Verona mentioned, this was a team effort of the curriculum committee. So I know that will be our kind of collective work to put the message out there, whether it be video explanations on our website. This is really the first step today. We're presenting it. But whether it's visits to different buildings, to present the information, we're going to use this. Our plan is really, to use this on Superintendent College Day to kick off the year next year, so that when we have all staff together in the district, everybody gets that consistent message together, and then we are able to share that consistent message.
Okay, so you're going to start with this, because that was my next question. How are you going to begin to engage our parents?
We'll start the year with our staff, and then we'll share the information with parents. So we can even host, an evening to talk about it. I'd be happy to do that.
Okay. And I was noticing that the profile begins really in pre-K. So, which I think is wonderful. You have to start from the foundations. But have you yet begun to talk to the Head Start programs in our community? Maybe to start talking about things that we are looking forward to having the students understand and know, or parents know when they put their child into pre-K, these are some of the expectations?
Not Head Start specifically, but we'll have that on our plan for rollout, because I think that's a great suggestion. We've actually had more involvement in our district committees this year, and that may be one of the positive pieces from the pandemic, is that on our Zoom calls we have representatives of all different community groups, so we're really happy about that piece, that increased relationships within the community. So we'll definitely look to get that out there and start another PTA programs.
Okay, and I noticed that the stats were really taken before the pandemic, and I noticed that resiliency was down And I was wondering, did you decide maybe to look into it again to see maybe if these are still the same qualities that we're looking for in a graduate, especially after the pandemic?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a living document, as we call it. So we'll look to constantly review this just like we were reviewing plan this year.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Romanelli.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Dr. Young?
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The question is regarding, I guess, leads off your initial statement. You said you don't want to teach obsolete things, do obsolete things well. We want to teach you things better, to do better. The question is, as far as the evaluation goes on the criteria that you got from the committee, are students going to be evaluated according to that criteria? And then are they going to be, is there going to be, are you going to try to improve them in certain areas, or are you going to try to kind of put them into what criteria, into a situation that fits their you understand what I'm saying?
I understand exactly.
In other
Yeah.
words, don't try to make them better critical thinkers. Maybe they have a stronger suit and utilize that stronger suit instead of changing what they're doing.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. We talked a lot about that. You'll notice in the language from on the profile that when you see the pre-K through 2 grade band, it'll use words or language like begins, or maybe in 3 through 5 you have developing, and then it's more of a mastery in 9 through 12. So it's supposed to be a progressive approach, from pre-K through 12. And we also kind of envision this as, a student, we talk about self-management or self-assessment, things like that, a student self-assessment tool. Maybe where are some areas that you see yourself as having strengths, and some areas that you may need to set goals for yourself to improve on. So we'll use that all as part of the approach there. But, the goal is to, of course, align with state teaching standards and we'll evaluate students in that way.
If I can also just add, if you're perfect in all of those 10 areas, you probably don't exist, even as adults. We could all point to the areas where we're not perfect 10s in those areas. So we see this as an aspirational goal, but definitely recognize the individual pathways that students can get to their certain place. And when you say, like critical thinking skills for one student may be expressed in a proficiency for math, but for another student it may be expressed in their novelty in repairing automobiles. So I think that's a piece of it as well. The really important piece, though, is I think we have to start to decide what we're going to let go of and what we're going to emphasize. And that will be a years-long process. I use this explanation all the time. I'm helping my 9th grade daughter with Global 1. Big question on a test: who did Greece fight in the Punic Wars? Again, have a doctorate, didn't know the answer, looked it up. I'm not sure we need to test students on things like that anymore. They need to understand what happened that got them into the war, what happened as a result of the war. They don't necessarily need to know the name of the war in the countries, but we still do a lot of that in schools. So I think it's really looking at our curriculum and evaluating where we can let some things go, because you can't do everything, and then focus on the things that are really critical for our kids.
Great.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Romanelli. I'm delighted you were able to bring such a comprehensive presentation in a 15-minute time period. Much appreciated. I have a few questions. First, it seems to me 10 years ago when we were dealing with writing a mission statement, I always had difficulty why a school had to write a mission statement, why a church had to write a mission statement, why a temple had to write a mission statement. Because I just thought it was sort of this corporate kind of example. But I guess now with this profile, we're going to have to look at our mission statement, because our mission statement should certainly be consistent with this profile of a graduate. And it seems to me, in hindsight, that 10 years ago, we should have been doing this kind of work rather than generating a mission statement first. So is that a fair thing to say in terms of the mission statement? Do we need to review our mission statement? Because I know Mrs. Barone would be very welcome to do that.
I think absolutely, that's some of the, just within the curriculum committee, we've listed some next steps for that committee for future years, and that's definitely one of the conversations.
Great. I had issue with the whole issue with the comfortable with technology or comfortable using technology. So I was hoping that the word balance would be in there, particularly given the work of Turkle at MIT and what we're reading now about kids spending too much time on technology and too much time on laptops and too much time on phones and too much time on social media. So I'd be somewhat comfortable, more comfortable with the placement of the word balance in that, but once again, it's just my comment. Another one that sort of concerns me is in terms of reading through the list, I don't see literacy anywhere. In terms of, and usually when you think of school, and you think of mission, and you think of profile, you think of literacy, at least I do first, and I might be like Dewey, aging myself, certainly dating myself. But one of the issues specifically concerning literacy, where I really think we have to do a better job, is the whole issue of financial literacy. I think kids are coming out of school and they don't have the idea that credit cards cost much more than they appear to, that interest rates are prohibitive, that checks just can't be written unless there's money to back it up. I do think in terms of that, that's a personal concern of mine, that I know we're hiring a new business teacher, but I'm hoping that every kid that comes through the high school has at least, I don't know what it would be, a 3-hour course or a 5-hour course or a 10-hour course or a half a semester course in financial literacy, because I don't think we're doing them a paper, graduating them without that. So that's sort of another comment I have in terms of that. And I wanted to thank Ms. Soriano for your contribution. It's nice to have the students' imprint on this. So thank you for your talent and thank you for sharing that. And thank you again, Mr. Romanelli and Dr. Romanelli and your committee that came up with this.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. And I will say there was one thing I omitted that I thought of while you were speaking. We did actually put the draft out to the full district, just as like a proofing period, and we got a lot of great suggestions. One of them that one of the purposes of presenting tonight, I will include that balance, because I think that I said that when presenting it. It's not just technology for the sake of using technology. We have to be strategic about doing that. So I think balance is the perfect way to describe that. We can update the document.
Just my other final comment, just concerning the whole issue of tolerance too. I guess that might be a top 10 of mine. That doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a top 10 of the committee. But given disability and given race and given issues that are affecting society today, I would think that tolerance is certainly some kind of understanding of tolerance would be a certain basic requisite of any graduate that comes out of our system. Thanks again.
I was on the part of the subcommittee that talked about tolerance, and we went with open-mindedness as the tolerance. It's beyond tolerance. Tolerance is tolerating someone. Open-minded to it is a more expansive point of that.
Mr. Pinto?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Romanelli, for the presentation, and to the committee for all their work. Jasmine, thank you for the great visual. So I'm looking at this presentation. I was so excited when we first saw that video, watching the profile of the graduate, how we're preparing not for graduates of this year, but we're looking as deep into the future as we can actually see, because we don't know what's going to be presented for the future. And, it's exciting. I actually really agree with Dr. Ryan on the point where we have to get a little financial literacy, really motivated and focused. And similarly, not on a specific topic though, because, 2 years ago, we were just joking about Bitcoin, and now Bitcoin is probably going to be the main currency in 5 years. So you never know how we're going to transition. So responsibility in that aspect, I think, I don't know if I see responsibility in this profile. But when I was going through the bullets, the word that jumped out to me was grit. And not everyone sees grit as a positive. I see it as positive. I know many others may see it as positive. And if we can integrate that term, basic definition, so I'm just looking it up, is a positive, non-cognitive trait made on individuals' perseverance, effort combined with passion, and particular long-term objectives, including having courage, conscientiousness, long-term goals, resilience, optimism, and focusing on excellence instead of perfection. And I feel like if we try to follow the North Star being all these and really organizing grit, I think, I mean, we always joke about, we always see the it factor. Is it grit? And I think it is. That's what I think we're looking to try to motivate to the skill set of our students. I'm really looking forward to how we're going to be able to balance getting all these criteria satisfied against the structure of the state mandates. That's going to be, I think, one of the greatest needs for grit from the district in the way that we implement this. But I love this idea. It teaches people to be prepared for life, not only for textbooks, but real world. And excited for the movement you guys did in the committee, so thank you for that.
Thank you. We can definitely include that, and there is a more comprehensive guide to the full profile that kind of explains all the work. It has the visual that Jasmine created. It goes through and uses. You will see the word balance throughout that guide, and you will see the word responsibility throughout there. We didn't have the word written there, but we'll definitely put in I think the perseverance place is the perfect place to put it.
Yeah, and I think we actually did discuss that, Mr. Pinto, and because grit sometimes means different things to different people, we
Right.
wanted to be more specific, so we used the perseverance and resilience. I think the resilience piece is closest to the definition of grit that you use.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, Dr. Romanelli and the committee for this really great work. I just have two things. In your next steps clause where it says to develop programs to support the profile, what is an example of what a program might be that would incorporate that?
So I think that's a great question. If you look at, let's say, for example, one of the 10 items was independence. And if we look at our curriculum and we take a look through our do our students have independent learning opportunities, within their classes? Do they have the opportunity to explore, their learning independently and learn about topics that they want to know more about? If the answer to that is no, then, are there certain structures that we can put in place within the school day where students can explore their learning independently? That's just one example, but that's the type of structural or programmatic piece. Maybe it's an elective type thing, that we would bring in.
Right. And my second question was, so how will this be measured for each student? Would there be a measurement tool or something incorporated into the report card, or is there like a structured measurement piece?
Yeah, so I love that conversation about, how to evaluate that. Like the whole, I could talk all day for those who've got grades and about how, that should all be structured. That's a whole other conversation we've had many times before. But really, I think that the first step is to look at that self-assessment and where, take somewhat of a baseline, let's say, and then look at through the course of the year, do students rate themselves higher than they started the year as a tool in that way? And then by tying these types of learning experiences into the standards, that's currently how we could evaluate students, on their mastery and their report cards. But I agree with you. I think that there are certain soft skills or certain other areas that we could report on, in grading practices. So that's a big conversation.
Yeah, and not in a way that would be adding extra pressure onto a report card or anything like that, but just like a good way to.
There are, we've done a lot of studying of different types of report cards and things like that, and looked at different school districts. Some districts that include the CASEL SEL competencies on their report cards, and they report those, separately. Grading, really, if you have a standards-based grading approach, your grade is a mastery of the standards, and it doesn't include things like your class participation or hard work, things like that. Those are important, and those are reported separately. So this might be a nice way to tie that into that conversation.
I also think, the conversation about assessment and reporting is a huge one. And I think the first step may be putting in ways that we can assess our programs. We can't expect someone to become a marathon runner if we're teaching them to play billiards or whatever. So I think it's looking at our big picture programs and, doing self-assessments on whether those programs could lead to this, even in the ideal. And then once we kind of have that piece in place, looking at, assessment being brought down to that granular level where we're looking at, student assessment over time, teacher assessment over time, and, really working that into the big picture.
It's kind of exciting actually because, the work here is kind of endless, the different directions that you can go in. You can look at every element of teaching and learning. We mentioned, questioning before, looking at all of our lessons and seeing, what level question are we asking recall questions, or are we asking questions where students really need to think deeply about the answer? So it just keeps going. And I'll say that this has been the most I've talked about teaching and learning in my career this year during the pandemic and during last year about how we're going to be effective, what we're doing is meaningful. Our teachers have done a tremendous job. I know that there's been so much reflection throughout this whole process, so I'm excited to continue working with the whole committee.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, at this time, any questions or comments from the public on the work session topic only? Okay, we'll move on to Board of Education, new and old business.
Just had one thing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Boston. I just wanted to thank Dr. Kylie Rendon again for being here and for assisting with the delivery of the presentation. I just wanted to ask the superintendent what the update was in terms of the summer school, the elementary summer school.
So we have selected the principal and we have, Dr. Romanelli, we put out the, why don't you take it, you know better.
Absolutely. So we've selected, we have two separate summer school programs this year. One is a Math Literacy Institute for our students in grades 2 through 8, and one is our traditional program for grades 6 through 12 for students who need credit for passing a course. What we've done so far is we have, as Dr. Gallagher said, we've hired the administrators for both of the programs. Both are teacher leaders in the district with their administrative degrees. We've reached out to the buildings to identify any students in need of reading and math support, either they're currently, thank you, Jasmine, by the way, great to see you. Thank you for coming.
Jasmine.
So we've looked at students who are either currently receiving math and reading support in grades 2 through 8. We're going to invite every single one of those students to the program because it is a math and reading emphasis. And so we really wanted it to be targeted for those students. Also, any students who are not receiving those services currently but may benefit from it, we're going to invite those
Do we have any numbers who've already signed up? Do we have a projected number in terms of what the enrollment is?
We're going to send out about, we have to send out the letter still, but I'll know better hopefully by our next one of our next meetings.
So isn't it a bit awkward to hire administrators before we know how many students are going to be actually in the program? What was the thinking behind that?
Well, we do that first with our traditional program, our 6 through 12 program, because we know that we have students who are not going to pass certain courses or indicated that credit recovery
with that, right?
Right. We definitely have, we're inviting almost 100 students per grade level at 2 through 8 for this reading and math support program. So we know that even just based on our traditional program offerings, if we have 25 to 50% of those students attending, that we're definitely going to have either 1 or 2 sections per grade level, and we're going to be including an E&L and special education support in there, and we will need an administrator to manage that.
And Dr. Ryan, these are always contingent on budget passing and program running.
Right. Since this was requested 3 months ago, my understanding was that the principals were going to be approached in their respective buildings in terms of who might be prospective students in this program. Is that not the case?
That was the case, actually. So we have a full spreadsheet that was filled out this week by our principals and assistant principals, just for any students being recommended for reading and math. And I probably shouldn't have said hired administrators. You know, we've identified the administrators that we'd like to head up the programs, and we'll move forward. We're still in the planning phase, but we will have letters out to all students that are being invited within the next few weeks, and we'll know by the end of May really what our numbers are and have the time to do the necessary planning to make sure it's successful.
Because is there a requisite number of students for which we would run a program, and if we didn't reach that number, we would not be running the program? Have we set a minimum number of students for whom we would have such program?
Yeah, I think probably about 20 students per grade level, but I would anticipate that we would easily meet that number.
Okay, I guess we'll know in a month then.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, any other new old business?
I just wanted to point out that Mr. DeVito has created a couple of new budget videos that are on the website, and I'm happy to see that there are report announcements. But I'm wondering how we're going to get them out, because it doesn't seem like a lot of people either knew about the profile of the. I'm shocked that this meeting is as empty as it is, and I'm disappointed. It seems to me that every parent should be concerned with the profile of the graduates. I'm disappointed in the turnout. So I'm wondering if people aren't knowing what's, that we're not communicating well enough to let people know what's happening at our meetings, and how we could better communicate that. And I do know last year I saw your mug on Facebook, on the district Facebook page, doing your budget presentation. So I don't know, I guess my question is, what are the plans for the budget videos that are currently on the website?
So similarly this year, we will also do those Facebook posts. We'll do those Facebook blasts, social media blasts, and I'll check with Syntax to see if they already did that with the release of those videos that were on the web last Friday. But they should have, because I thought that they were going to do a Facebook post of those videos as well. So I'll make sure that that strategy is consistent in terms of communicating and making sure that our community knows about what's happening with social media as our main means of communicating with everybody.
And also, Mr. DeVito is presenting to all of the PTAs on Thursday. Yeah.
Okay. So that was my next question. I heard it earlier this evening that PTA participation is up via Zoom. So you're going to be meeting with the PTAs via Zoom?
I'm going to do a one Zoom presentation for all the PTAs.
Excellent.
Thursday at 7 p.m.
Excellent. Thank you.
Great. Is that it, Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Okay. Sam?
Just in regards to the profile of a graduate, we can definitely put together some items like that, but we really view this really as the first step of just presenting this to the board, and then on that next steps, the campaign of information moving forward will all be part of that.
Great, thank you. Ms. Roan, I'm hoping that the attendance tonight is based on our new YouTube platform that we're rolling out, and I want to give a thank you to technology, Dr. Carly Redden, Stolen, for us going on YouTube. Hopefully the parents are watching this at home or on the ball field while their kids are at practice, paying attention to the meeting. So I'm happy that we got that out there. Dr. Gallagher, can you give us a quick update? I know I got part of a robocall about next year's elementary start time.
Sure, and I think I did at the last meeting as well. It's from 9, we're shifting all 4 elementaries forward just 10 minutes. So it'll be 9:10 to 3:30.
So that plan is continuing unless it's changed for now? That's the plan?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And that should have been conveyed to all parents this evening. I also just wanted to say that I've gotten text during the meeting that the YouTube platform and sound is working great, so thank you for that. I also wanted to share, though, just an update from Mr. Epstein that our boys volleyball team did not prevail tonight, but that may also be why we didn't have such an audience here. Maybe everyone is watching their home live stream, but congratulations to them. They came in second in the county, which is great.
Absolutely. Great job.
Another question, how has the end of this week been with the rollout of as many kids in school and classroom? The rollouts are all done, where everyone didn't want to be in, they're happy it's working?
Everyone is in, and, as I said, to the board in prior conversations, we have about 500 students district-wide who are still fully remote at their parents' choice. The rollout this week, everyone was in as of last Thursday, and everything has gone very, very smoothly. And kudos to our staff, to our teachers who have adjusted this year to more things they should ever have to adjust to in their lifetime, to our administrative team, to our custodians, who really, this has been a year of creative thinking. How can we do this and how can we make it safe for our kids? So I'm happy to report everyone's back in and looks very happy.
Great, thank you. Question for Mr. DeVito. Everyone is noticing this. Construction costs are skyrocketing. A piece of plywood's, $50 nowadays. Is it on our radar of the rising construction costs for all of our projects in our current and our future projects?
So I know when we put together the project budgets that our architect puts in an escalation factor. I'm just trying to recall what that exact number was to anticipate possible rise in costs. But I will certainly reach out to him again to see if, what he's noticing in terms of bids that are coming in, because he does work in a number of different districts, to see if he's noticing any significant increase in the bids that are being received and in the lowest bidder that's being awarded compared to what was initially estimated in the overall project. As you may know, and just for FYI for others, that our overall project costs included 18%, what they call a factor, right? So part of that 18% is to cover possible escalation of costs as well as potential unforeseen circumstances. And when we did have conversations with the architect in the past, because as you know, a couple of years ago, we did see a spike in construction costs, he felt that 18% was still a fair number to include and to consider, typical escalation. Now, if there's something unusual, I will have that conversation with him and see if that's something we need to think about.
All right, thank you. And last thing, I know we had Earth Day last week. Kids really enjoyed it. My kids had fun. I just want to give a shout out to the district and all the parents who got all the kids really involved in the appreciation of the environment and Earth Day activities. Thank you.
Could I just ask a follow-up question about construction costs? How long ago was it that Mr. Grillo came and spoke to us? It wasn't that long ago. Maybe it was in the summer? No, I guess, yeah, we were meeting together. I think it's been this school year because that was my very issue. He and I had kind of a little bit of a heated argument about the fact that over time, we continually had these construction projects that would get estimated at one cost and then come in so over budget that we couldn't move forward with them. And he, whenever that was, maybe we should look it up, because whenever that was, he assured me, didn't just say, I think so, Maureen. He's like, we're flattening out here, and I'm confident that that it's not going to happen anymore. So maybe we should look at that.
And I have that same memory, Mrs. Broner, when he did address the board. So I don't recall exactly when, and that question was asked. He did say that he felt like it had leveled off, and that whatever increase he had seen during that period, that it had essentially corrected itself. But if Mr. Pinto was talking about something new, we'll ask him about that. But you are correct in him feeling confident that the project budgets that he put together, and I believe it was for the January meeting that we had it. And you may have asked him at that meeting when we first started talking conceptually.
Yes.
Yeah, conceptually about our capital plan moving forward when we talked about it in January, that he had said that. So it may have been at that time.
I'm talking just, for example, plywood, went up 90% over the last 6 months.
Yeah,
$8 a board to $60 to $70 a board. So I'm just making sure that we're planning forward for those elevated costs.
Mr. Pinto, I appreciate the question, and I'll definitely follow up.
Thank you.
I just have a couple of questions. I was actually very glad that Dr. Ryan and Mr. Pinto brought up the financial literacy section, because that was a concern of mine, and I was going to ask that after
reading the profile of a graduate, but I was waiting for old and new business. We are seeing students who do not know how to fill out a check or use a credit card. So Dr. Romanelli or Dr. Gallagher, are we looking forward to next year starting classes where students will be taught these necessary skills?
Well, so let me just be clear, we do have some classes where students are taught those necessary skills. I think the issue is not all students have the ability to select those classes. So I think more important is that we build those skills, teaching those skills into some of our existing classes, or create opportunities. I think we just mentioned in executive session, the high school is looking at planning a few days of adulting classes for seniors before they graduate. You know, it's not a skill that takes a whole long amount of time to teach.
Right.
So some of those things are, you know, we have some plans in how we can work with them in a broader manner. The other thing too is, I mean, it is a changing landscape. I hardly write any checks, you know?
Right.
And I think we have to, again, provide a way to help our students understand how to manage their finances. I think that's a much more important piece. And look at, you know, things like cryptocurrency and understand what they're hearing in the news, so that they're prepared when they're older and have to make those decisions.
Right. Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned the high school because that was my next question. A concern I've been hearing a lot about the seniors and what can we do to make their last final weeks at the high school special and memorable. Our seniors, as you all know, have really missed out on a lot of the milestones due to the pandemic. And, you know, it's been a difficult time for them. I really feel for them and I know that you do as well. So I would like to know what will happen now for our seniors so we can promote them, so we can give them the activities to look forward to, so that their social emotional needs are being met and so they can shine as seniors.
So I can tell you, I've never seen a high school team work harder to make sure that the seniors have a great last few weeks than our team has been working lately. From moving the prom to a place that, you know, would be memorable, where they're on the beach, where they can, you know, have guests if they want them, to making sure that we can accommodate as many people as possible on Veterans Field for graduation, to talking about a potential senior trip, to even little things like when they brought the seniors back, they played music instead of bells between class sessions, and the kids thought that was great, and so they continued it. Talking to the kids about what, you know, what things they want to do before they graduate. They have a ton. We're utilizing we are renting a wedding tent and putting it outside admin for a few weeks in June, so we can have things outside like the scholarship ceremony, like the IB diploma ceremony. Really trying to make sure our kids have as normal an end of year as possible, and, you know, give them as many positive things and exciting things to look forward to in the next few weeks as we possibly can. So I feel very comfortable that we'll have very happy students in the next few weeks.
Speaking of the seniors, this year has also been extremely challenging for students who are graduating high school. Have we looked into what might happen next year and how we can help prepare maybe our sophomores and juniors more for senior year and picking out colleges and what can happen?
So I know our guidance department works hard on that continuously, and is always trying to refine their practices. They hold college information nights. You know, they've done the virtual this year. I think that, you know, they've put together great guides for parents in terms of, you know, what the college selection process looks like. We utilize Naviance in a much greater way than we ever have before, so that students can actually, through that program, see college profiles, see what the average SAT score is, take it in there, if they need SAT scores, where the colleges are that have the best programs that they want. And you know, I think that they really have put together a pretty comprehensive program helping to advise students. I think over the past 5 or 6 years, the college selection process has gotten like really crazy.
Yes.
Particularly on Long Island, I think. And I think maybe the next step is to help, you know, educate parents a little bit more about some of the misconceptions or myths around the college selection process, to manage expectations and really to help them, help their students find a spot that's a good fit for their child.
I agree with you. Thank you. I also just want to congratulate Mr. Papetti and Mr. Cram from the middle school. I watched their YouTube, their advertisement for the Guinness Book of World Records. It was wonderful. And I know that there are people in the community out there that are trying to get more boxes of cereals so the middle school can be into the Guinness Book of World Records. But I think it just really shows how our teachers will go above and beyond for our schools and just do whatever they can to make the school experience a positive one for our students. So I really thought that was wonderful. Thank you.
Mr. Pinto?
I just actually, Ms. Conway took a comment. I was gonna bring up middle school's food charity and / Guinness Book of World Records. They're doing it on the 27th, and they're trying to get way over 5,000 boxes of cereal. Just want to give a thank you to the local sponsors and also to the community that we have a few more weeks of fundraising to fill the halls so we can do the longest cereal dominoes in world history. And then donate all the boxes.
And if you don't eat cereal, you can actually Venmo them a donation and they will buy cereal.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Right?
Right.
Okay, any questions and comments from the public on any topic? Okay. Announcements. Long Beach Classroom Teachers Association.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. On behalf of the Long Beach Classroom Teachers Association, I just wanted to welcome and thank the Island Park School Board and administration for being here this evening. And more importantly, I'd like to take an opportunity for thanking the Island Park School Board for volunteering in the positions that you serve in and for all the support that you give our students in the early and intermediate years. Thank you.
Thank you. Administrative, Supervisory, and PPS. Right, yeah. LBSCA, Group C. Parent Teacher Association. And any student organization members. Okay, with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Before you make the motion to adjourn, may I make a motion that we go into executive session?
I'll second that.
Yes. Sure.
Okay.
Mrs. Conway?
Yes.
Mrs. Brona?
Yes.
Mr. Pinto?
Yes.
Dr. Ryan?
Yes, I vote yes.
And I vote yes.
Everyone else want to know where we're gonna,
Now adjourn.
Yeah.
you want to let them know they can go?
Oh, yeah, sure. I thought you were talking to me, saying something. And everyone can go and have a good evening. Thank you all for coming. Thanks so much.